What's going on, YouTube? As I'm backing out of the driveway. I got more errands to run today, and my truck is covered in leaves. Gotta love when you get to park under a tree. Unfortunately, that's the fate that the Mustang is gonna reach when it gets here. It's also gonna have to get parked under trees to start. But at least I can enjoy driving it. So, running some errands on my day off here. Went to the bank, got some finances in order for the Mustang, and then I got to go do some grocery shopping. But in the meantime, I figured I'd at least talk about some finances. Now, I guess if you all have been on YouTube for a while, you remember way back in the day, it seems like a good year or two ago, when Street Speed 717, before he got huge, used to give some financial advice. And of course, me being a subscriber back then too, it was like, yeah, I followed some of his advice, and I still do. I follow kind of the advice of savings and investment and all that. And I of course like to put all my money in different accounts. Got a savings account, currently got some investments out there, and I've got a mutual fund just so I can try to make some money. And of course, I guess that's everyone nowadays. But now I want to talk about the different options for buying a car, because, well, let's face it, everyone has what they prefer in their own kind of options out there. Now, I, for one, am financing the Mustang, mostly because I wish I was rich enough to be able to pay cash, but of course, that doesn't always work. So, for now, the Mustang will be paid for through financing. Now, of course, not everyone finances. Some people do like to pay cash, and then some people don't even like to buy the cars per se. They just like to lease the cars. Of course, I want to talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages of all the different versions of that. So obviously, my preferred way, if I had the money, I would buy the car cash. Now, the advantage of that is pretty simple. No car payment. You inevitably are paying the least overall price, because you're just buying the car, no interest rates, no nothing. It's yours. You have a title in hand and everything. So that's the plus side of that. Downside is, of course, you're buying a car, and then, all that money, well, it's no longer in your bank account. You have to have that money up front, and when you do get it, there goes that money. So that's, of course, the biggest downside. Now, as my dad likes to say, his financial advice is he only buys cars in cash. His financial advice is buy your car cash, and then over time put money away as if you're making a car payment, and by the time you go to buy the next car, you have cash for the next car. And if anything, to me, that's not bad financial advice. Of course, I'm not following my dad's advice right now, but that is probably what I will do in the future, once I get enough money to actually start buying cars cash. Now, of course, the other option is, and pretty much the most common one, is you finance a car. And pretty simple. You take out a loan, someone pays the seller on your behalf, and then, of course, you pay back the bank or credit union or whoever you take the loan from. Now, plus side of that is you don't have to have the money up front to get the car. You, of course, need money for a down payment unless you do a 0% down payment, at which point you still need money to help pay fees and everything, which is great, so you don't have to pay as much money up front, so you can have money set aside for other things at the time. But downside is, of course, you have the recurring headache of a car payment, and of course you have the double recurring headache of interest. When someone lets you borrow money, they want that money back, and they want some back in return for their services, aka known as the interest payment. I guess that's 6th grade math for most people, as you learn about interest rates. So that's pretty self-explanatory, but it's the known headache. Over the time you have that loan, you are going to pay more because of that interest rate. So, and of course, the most solid advice I got was never finance through a bank or a dealership. Simply put, their interest rates are too high. Now, I hear stories all the time about people like, yeah, my first car loan was a 20-something% interest rate. And it's like, that's a lot of money. And chances are it was probably a used car anyway that wasn't even worth that. So you end up paying practically twice for the car in financing. And that's why I don't like the idea of financing. So solid advice I got was always finance through a credit union. And that's pretty solid advice, because credit unions tend to be pickier about who they finance to, but they tend to give you better interest rates when they actually accept you. Because, mine, I financed through PenFed for my Mustang, and I actually had to apply twice for the car loan. First time they did, in fact, turn my loan down, which sucks, but at the same time, they want to make sure they aren't going to have to get the loan defaulted on because of their low rates. So, it is what it is with that, but I'll take having a loan where I had to basically kind of manipulate it over having no loan. But, so credit unions always are going to be the better option price-wise, because you are going to get that better interest rate. And, of course, one of the other options is the famous one where, of course, a lot of people don't understand it, is you lease a car instead of buying it. And just park here. Finish this video up for you all. Now, of course, when you lease a car, you're having the car for a set amount of time, and after that time, you give the car back. Now, why is leasing a bad option? Well, plain and simple, you don't own the car. You're simply paying that money to basically rent a car long term. Now, I know people who lease will try to say how that's not the case, but realistically, that's what's going on. You're essentially paying an amount in depreciation for the car to rent it. Now, that's the big downside. It's just at the end, you don't have a car you can call yours. You're spending money. And, of course, the other big thing is when you ding or dent a leased car is you have to get it fixed at the end of that. And, of course, another big downside is if you do decide to keep the car, of course, you've agreed on that residual value, you're stuck paying whatever it is, whether the car is worth that or not, if you were to decide to buy it. Now, upsides of leasing are, you're only committing to have the car for, 2 or 3 years or some amount of time. So if anything, you are going to frequently change cars, it is a good idea to lease it. And of course, if you do own a business for tax purposes, you can write off the interest on a leased car. So if that happens to be you, maybe you should consider leasing. Now, I would say this: take every bit of advice anyone gives you with a grain of salt. Figure out what's right for your situation, because people love to give advice, but they don't necessarily give the best advice for whoever they're giving it to. I'm financing the Mustang simply because I just don't have the cash, and also I'm doing it to help build my credit. Now, some people love to finance because they like to subscribe to this advice of, well, you have money to invest. And to me, I don't like that advice just because you're paying interest on something. So if anything, that's more money. An investment, there's no guarantee you'll make that money. If you're making more money than you're paying in interest, it might even out. So that always is relative. And another one is, another reason I can say I really don't like financing is everyone then wants to sell you gap insurance, which, as we know, financing sucks because what happens if the car gets totaled and you owe more money on the car than it's worth? Well, you're stuck paying that difference. So then they all, you should get gap insurance. Gap insurance is great. It pays that gap. And they always want to show you a visual. Everyone wants to show visuals to change your mind. So to me, that's why I've never liked financing too, is just because when you do finance, you do have that risk of, well, what happens if I owe more money on the car than it's worth? That's why I'm putting such a large percentage down on the Mustang and only financing it for 2 years. I plan to have the car paid off quick just because I don't want to have to worry about that. I want the car to be mine. I want a title in hand. I don't want to have to if I go to sell it, I don't want to have to worry about selling a car with a lien still on it. So that's my philosophy. That's why, like I said, after this, once I have the money, I will be paying every future car in cash. To me, cash works great because you take every finance problem and you never have to worry about them. But once again, take everything with a grain of salt. I'm not trying to give anybody advice. I'm just trying to explain kind of my situation, why I picked what I picked. And like I said, think about it for your situation because everybody is different. Anyway, let me know in the comments section below what you all think. Which do you all prefer? Do you prefer to buy, finance, or lease? Well, shouldn't even say buy, cash finance or lease. Let me know in the comment section below what you all like to do when it comes to that. Give me a little bit of a why. And then, if you like this video, go ahead and leave a thumbs up. If you're stopping in for the first time, go ahead and subscribe. Help this channel get to 1,000 subscribers, because I promise you, not every vlog takes place on a nice rainy day. I do live in the Sunshine State, which would be nice if it was sunny once in a while. But anyway, take care, have a good day.